Oh, we're live.
We are live and in person.
Yes.
We're kind of stalling to let a few of y'all get on. And I'm trying to, it's notifying me that we're live now. So I always love this part. Oh, look at how cute we are.
Look at how cute we are.
Wait. Will we be able to see this on Facebook?
If you go to your phone, you can.
Yep.
Go to my phone.
And actually,
go to Facebook on your phone.
Okay, and then what do I do?
Go to my Facebook page.
I'm going to share to my story.
I see myself.
You can see it live.
Ooh, my brows are looking right.
They are.
Nice, right?
On fleek, whatever that fleek means. I'm too old to know what that means.
Fleek, she says.
On fleek. That's so
not even current slang, right?
Yeah, that was very 2018, you know what I'm saying? But I'll let you get away with it.
I'm usually way late to the game on those things.
Me too. But
if you are joining us, shout out. Like, not just like into the, you have to type in, like type something in.
Type out.
Tell us you're here. Say hello. Tell us a random thing about you. Ask a question, whatever. And we love when people interact.
Compliment my eyebrows.
Compliment your eyebrows.
You know,
say hello to my husband because he's clearly the only one already on.
We know he was waiting.
Downstairs. He's downstairs.
Oh, that's hilarious.
If he wasn't your husband, I'd be like worried that he was a stalker. But
I know, right?
Even as my husband, he's kind of stalkerish at this point.
He's your biggest fan.
So cute. But Ayanna, you have to tell me what if he shouts out loud when I show the picture of me playing him in the movie version of your memoir, because it's pretty good. I'm so excited.
All right, so I'm gonna just do a little intro and then we'll let you guys take it away.
I know, right?
Christy, I can hear that.
I know. I'll turn that down. Oh, I can see comments. Dude, Jason's on. Jason Parent is watching. Whoa, Beth Divine.
She just got that.
Shout out to Beth Divine.
All right.
Ooh.
So we're gonna start because your friend got the book. Oh, look, Christy, where's yours? Oh, she's got it. I was about to be like, where's yours? And both have read it, so I'm excited about that. Lots of people are still getting it in their hands, so even if you're joining us, we're not going to give anything away. It's, the details are in the book. We'll still talk about stories and stuff, but these ladies are going to ask me questions.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't think of two better people to ask me questions about this because you're just both hilarious, but also very compassionate and thoughtful about all this stuff. And separately, we've both had conversations about the book, which has been wonderful. So I figured, why not come together and have a cool conversation about it?
Absolutely.
So if you guys are listening live, please share with your friends that this is going on. It's also on YouTube Live. It will also be recorded and saved on YouTube on my personal YouTube channel, which is just Ayanna Parent. You can search it. It comes up right away, but it will be saved there after if you missed it and you want to watch it and want to share it with other people. Please do. All these broadcasts that particularly Christy and I do are for healing and well-being. So all the love. That's all I got.
Absolutely.
It's up to the deck is yours.
Oh, okay. I have to begin with the most important thing. So while I was reading this, obviously it was an amazing, amazing memoir. And I was like, this will have to be a movie, even if it's just like me producing it, right? So I was thinking, like, who would play everybody? And I thought of, and I'm going to put this up on the screen. Tell me if you can see it. The person that would play Ayanna is Zendaya. Doesn't she look exactly like Ayanna?
Yes.
Like
Wait.
that
Oh
smile,
my.
the
Yes.
smile, the hair, perfect, right?
Yes.
Then I have to be involved, right? And I have to play your husband, Jason, because I'm obsessed with him. So here is. So I was just like, that's who I've got to be. I have all of my like gear together. I'm ready. Here is a Snapchat chat of me looking exactly like Jason. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm so ready. I can't even. Oh my god.
You are hired. You're hired, girl.
Right?
Wait, you
Oh.
have to like put that up somewhere later.
I know. Well, I'll just keep this to the side during the entire interview. How's that?
Oh my
So-
god.
Right? Isn't that perfect?
That's insane.
So I
Oh
had
my
to
God.
start it. I had to start off with that. I had to. Because, you know, this is a very deep, intense book. And I think the thing, though, that knowing you, Ayanna, is that you are someone who embraces joy and fun and laughter. So I wanted to start with that because I think that one thing I took away from the book is that obviously there was a lot of vulnerability, there was a lot of pain, but I also sensed a lot of humor. Like I was cracking up also throughout the whole thing. And so I wanted to ask you to start. What do you think of the role of kind of joy and humor plays in the recovery process for you?
Good question. Oh my god, I don't think I could do it without it. Because you know when you get in those moments where you feel so in despair, and then if you don't have those cracks or those moments of light and joy, then you just there's no reason to keep going or to keep moving. The story in the book that reminds me of that so well is the second time I was in rehab and I went to the detox, and like everyone was sick, right? We're talking like this is a pretty high intense detox. Like I was coming off a run of like, pretty scary amount of alcohol in my system. So I was on the medical unit, but so was everybody else. And there was, people coming off of heroin, of really, coke, really scary drugs and alcohol, some for the first time, which is scary to watch. But I knew the second time that I had done that I was in the right place, that all I could feel was joy. Like it was this odd, and I felt safe because I felt so out of control and knew that like alcohol, I was not in control anymore. Alcohol was. And so once I got to rehab, I was like, oh, I'm safe. But then there was joy because I was like, oh my God, I get a second chance. Like I didn't die. I get a second chance to do this. I get a second chance of life. So I'm literally jumping around, dancing around, like doing yoga with everybody, and people are laughing and crying because their bodies are in such pain.
Yes.
I'm doing yoga with them because I'm like, this is what I love and this is what makes me happy. And I finally know for the first time in the freaking 40 years of my life what actually makes me happy. So it was like, that was like, oh my God. And then I just vowed from that moment on, like, with Be Free, like it has to involve joy because otherwise, what's the point? Right? Your body has to feel it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I like how in your mission statement for Be Free, it includes fun.
Yeah, totally.
That's part of the recovery process. So I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be a missing piece, I think, otherwise, if people are focusing on it's such a intensely painful process. But I never connected this yet until you just said this, Muska. But I feel like Ayanna's mom, especially through the book, came across as that exact person. I mean, she's hilarious.
Hilarious
in her tragedy. Like she's trying to pick up, paramedics while she's dying, that is so.
Oh my God. Yes.
So I don't want to give away. You got to read that part. It's so funny. It's so funny, but sad and everything all at once. And I can see how all of these emotions and everything, it just did a good job of like not leaving anything out.
Absolutely.
That is the funniest. I will just talk about it because it's just hilarious.
Yes.
Because she had emphysema, so it's like she was dying of smoking, Yet she convinced these, I mean, you guys, and they were adorable, okay? They're like 20 years old, they're working in a hospital, right? And my mom is so charming. I mean, she can, but she's also like, if you cross her, you're fucked, right? With these 20-year-old boys, like, shit, you got to get Val up to the roof. Like,
right.
There's like this whole code going around of like, your turn, like, and the only reason I figured it out because I visited her in the hospital and I smell smoke and I'm like,
how the hell did that happen?
How the hell do you smell like a cigarette?
Right.
And you would see just this flurry of like bodies, like of young men in their scrubs, just run to the hospital. And I was like, oh. You've got these boys wrapped around your goddamn finger.
He knew how to flirt, She knew how to get them to do.
This is the thing. She knows how to run men. I mean,
yeah.
She really does. I mean, she had them like she knew how that like their weakness and just how to get to them. I mean, it was like, who knows what she promised them?
Exactly.
Oh God.
I don't think it was sexual because she wouldn't have gone there because she was too empowered to like suck somebody's dick, but she's like she's not gonna she knew.
She knew how to use the charm, Mm-hmm. But that's one thing that like I think is amazing. And Christy, when you mentioned, her mother and how her mother was hilarious, I think one thing I liked about your book is that you made each character really and it's weird to call them characters because they're real people, but you made each person really three-dimensional so that, there was no one who was all like bad or all good. You would show like your mother had all these problems, but then she did have this charming sense of humor and this flirtation and stuff like that. Because I felt like while I was reading it, and tell me if you felt this way, Christy, like there were times where I was like, really pissed at different people, right? Like I was like really I was like, I'm really pissed at your mom or really pissed at your dad or really pissed at Maggie. Like I don't know what it was about that specific Maggie character that really triggered me. But then within the next few pages, I was like, I felt a softening because then I was like, okay, I kind of understand where that character's coming from. And that was what was so interesting to me is I felt like I experienced kind of the difficulty in like labeling somebody as like good, bad, or like toxic, and that's one thing I wanted to ask you about is like that must have been really difficult for you to have to take some time to think about these people in a three-dimensional way where like someone could have hurt you, but you also wanted to show where their background was. So could you talk a little bit about that? Or what was the experience of trying to see these people in a full 360-degree angle?
Yeah, I think honestly that was one of the hardest parts because it, trying to represent my position as a child and how it felt and then how that evolved along the way and then so the people evolved along the way and sometimes not in so nice ways, which is why you get this like view of my mom like when I'm at the train, you're like, why the fuck didn't that woman just show up? Right. And then there's times where and then Maggie was there the whole time, so it's not like my stepmother, in some ways she's looked at in the villain, she wasn't. Right. It was just that as an adult, the stronger I got, for some reason, our relationship just could not mend, and the worse it got, and the more I expected of her, the worse she got. So for whatever stuff that was going on there, it just highlighted at different times. And my dad's just a hot mess. Let's be clear. Love him. I do love my dad, but like because of his trauma in his life. Right. This is who he presents as a person in the world. And I do think that's who he's always going to present like. But I don't necessarily think that's going to be a supportive person to me in the world. Right. And that's okay, right? I got to like kind of live with that, right? That's like sort of where the meditation and the mindfulness come in. It's like, I got to let him be his person and with me being independent of that and then setting boundaries where I don't have to deal with being harmed by him. So I had to, along the way with the book, really kind of sit with like that space in between of how can I still write about them? But, I also wrote it in a really raw place because I just felt like I had to get it out and I had to tell the story and I had to share it. And I was for my sake, but also for the sake of people who are dying in COVID of alcoholism and drugs, that this story just really had to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything's a journey. It's almost like, a toddler rebirthing, the whole, everything that's happened to them in the world from between then to an adult. And then having, to kind of piece it back and understand it and look back. So, there's no villains, even though I know that it looks like there are. It's just pieces of people along the way that kind of, interacted with me as I grew.
Right.
And so, it just looked at as sort of you have to step back, but then also be able to have the conversation about what that meant. And, in terms of boundaries, like it's, for people listening, like it's totally okay to set boundaries. Let me tell you, it really is okay. If it doesn't feel right and it doesn't feel good and it's not working for you and it doesn't bring you joy because in your gut you feel pain, then it's okay to, even if it's your parent, if it's your closest person to you, it's okay to separate if that's, for the sake of yourself. Particularly if you're in recovery, right? So a lot of the separation or boundaries that I had to set was to save my life. It wasn't just to be like, I don't want to talk to you, Dad.
Right.
It was, you are harming my spirit and my emotional well-being. And if I need to choose you over being a sober mom and wife, then I will.
Yes, and I'm just going to chime in that I had a lot of lunches and talks with Ayanna as she was writing this book, and she's making it sound like it's an easy process. No, she's not making it sound.
Not easy.
There's a lot of.
Please tell me. Feel free to tell the nitty gritty. I was crying. I was like, ah!
Yeah. There was a lot of turmoil, and even as the book released, it's not easy to be this authentic. I don't think, and it's not easy. But do you think it's worth it? I guess that's my question. Is it worth it to be that authentic?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's always, oh my God, yeah. It's always learning, no matter what. Right. And I talked to you about, like, there's some fallout after the book came out, and my dad wasn't super happy. I know Maggie's not super happy, right? Because it hurts people's feelings. I shared the truth and I, said some stuff that would hurt people's feelings. It doesn't mean that people's actions were right. It just means saying that out loud causes reactions. That's all. And so, but I knew that, and so and I made that choice.
Right.
And I don't regret it. And and I wrestle every day with making that choice, but also loving myself for being brave. And sometimes, as I teach other people, as Christy so well told me, like, when you speak the truth, other people are going to react, and the people that love you will speak the truth with you and cry with you and do it, and the people that are struggling with their own stuff just won't.
I feel like the book was a giant invitation for everyone else to be as authentic as you were being, which is, every person in the book, even though I'm not in volume 1.
You're in volume 1. Don't worry.
As a giant invitation for us to look at ourselves and our pretty and ugly stories and our whole. It's just it's amazing that just speaking your truth can be that freaking powerful, and that you have to be that brave to do it. It is really hard to show up in the world as a really authentic human being constantly, even if you think you're there. There's always an opportunity where it's like it's easier to just not sometimes. So that's, I kept thinking that all the way through, and I kept also wanting to just, it was a journey of your inner child, I think, to some degree. And my inner child just wanted to hug your inner child all the time. So, and it's COVID, so I can't.
My inner child actually dance together a lot. I don't know.
Yes. But speaking of which, that's so powerful that, can you tell us a little bit more about kind of that moment that you visualized everything coming together with your mother and your daughter? I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, that was like, honestly, like one of the defining moments of me moving away from my trauma. And because after the first relapse, I had, it's like when you take alcohol out of the body, but you don't do anything else to heal it. So for 6 months there, I was like dry, but I was angry. I was pissed off. The world sucks. And why can't I just drink? And, all this stuff. And then I was in teacher training, yoga teacher training, which was the only place I found joy. And just, if you're going to be a yoga teacher, you really have to dig deep with your own stuff to be authentic and hold space for the people. And so there was this one activity where we just ended up talking about inner child and going back to a memory in childhood. And the one on the train came up. But unfortunately, for me, it was so traumatizing that I couldn't get out of my head. Like I woke up every day with the train. Like I just was a little kid on the train. And all I felt was lost, lonely, scared. Like, and every time I looked at Blessing, it just made it worse. Like, it just was like, oh my God, what if I'm never going to be able to be a mom? And she's going to feel like that, right? So all that went around and around. And it just ended up relapsing. But again, the best thing ever, because I knew what was missing is that that piece of trauma with my mom was not healed.
Right.
So I had to figure out a way to make that moment healed. And my mom's passed away at this point. So there's another example of like, you can still heal even though the people in your life are gone.
Right.
That did the trauma or that the interaction was with. So, the therapist had this idea, and she's highly trained and all this stuff, and said, do you want to walk through it with me? Like, I'll be there with you the whole time. And I'm like, shit, yeah. Like, you're in rehab, like, why not? Like, what else am I going to be safe enough to just lose my shit if, that's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Right.
And so, literally, we were in a room and the lights were off, and she would ask me questions about, okay, now you're on the train and you're this age. And how are you feeling? And your mom's not showing up. And then she would ask me to bring in, okay, now your mom is healed. She's, person that's functional and in recovery, and your mom in the best way possible. And you are now 13 and she's with you at the train, and now you are here. Like she went through every developmental stage. And so it was almost just like, and at the end, there was just the three of us, like as older adults, holding each other, like as angels. I don't even know how else to describe it, but that was what the experience is like. And once that end of the three, all of us just holding each other, and just it was almost like you looked down the train and it was like every single, step of the way she was there, because I allowed her to be in the healing process of, and I allowed to feel what that would feel like, to have it be a good feeling.
Right.
But I could then resonate with that feeling as opposed to the scary, awful, yucky feeling every time I thought of that train station. So from then on, I mean, I had to it sounds simple and like easy, but it was, it was scary, like to go there, right? The first step is like actually sitting in a chair and then going back to the moment of like where the trauma started. But once you get there and then you can feel the feeling of what it would be like to have my mom do that. And in some ways I do think, and I don't know what, people think about people who have passed on, but I do think she was in the room with me. I do think that allowed her the permission to be healed and to be who she is now in her afterlife or whatever. Like I feel her with me all the time. Like, and so I think that
So
moment
beautiful.
really, just allowed that space. So it literally, the next time I thought about it, it wasn't crippling. It wasn't like my stomach didn't hurt and I wanted to bend over and puke, and it was just, my shoulders relaxed and I was like, now I can even picture it now. Like I can bring that image to mind about the three of us being together and holding each other, like as healed people. And that's what I live with now, not the other story. It's so empowering.
Oh, yeah. So I have a question about that. So it sounds as though getting to the root of the trauma, or where the trauma began, seems to be a huge factor in kind of your philosophy on healing. And I know you work with people who are in recovery now. And how do you feel like you can elicit or get to the root of where someone's trauma begins? Do you think it takes a long time, or do you think most people have an inkling of when it started? Because I think that's something that's interesting to me, is when you're in therapy, how long does it take somebody typically to identify when their trauma started?
I'll tell you this, everybody knows,
Mm.
but they don't necessarily logically know in the moment.
Mm.
So and the only reason I say that
Aha.
the only reason I say they know it's because all the trauma lives in the body.
Mm.
So all it takes is this is why the Be Free model is just so much more gentle than like, necessarily clinical therapy, is because this
Mm.
is where the meditation comes in.
Mm.
So the first step for anyone in coaching is getting grounded and teaching them how to breathe and just be still with who they are. And so that stuff naturally starts to come up. And
Mm.
then what I can do is hold space for what that looks like,
Sure.
and talk them through it, and then figure out, what that looks like in terms of, was it this, was it that? And sometimes it's actually, so how to describe this? It's not the thing you think it is.
Right.
So sometimes it feels like it's something so big where, there could have been this big trauma that happened. And that's the thing that But like you've sort of done therapy around it for a long time, but you still feel like shit all the time and you're still depressed and you don't feel joy.
Mm.
So the beautiful thing about the Be Free program is to figure out where's the source, what's missing. And
Mm.
typically it's from the inner child. So it really has to go back with like, someone that's parentified for a really long time didn't get to play. So even though they
Mm.
knew that the problem was they took care of their brothers and sisters their whole life and they, didn't ever get to deal with themselves, they didn't allow their bodies to experience joy or dance or be silly or not have to worry about somebody else.
Right.
So then
Right.
walking somebody through like, okay, so go to Zumba and dance your face off like you're a 5-year-old and then come back and let's talk about it. That's
Mm.
the healing, right? You don't have to go into like the whole trauma of like what the hell happened. You have to go
Ah.
back to what's missing. Why?
Mm.
What's not healed, and let's
Mm.
experience that in the body, right? So
Mm.
not just in here, because 99.9% of our thoughts are not true.
Mm.
Oh, except that
Wow.
one. That one's true. That's the one that's
100%
true.
right. So the ones that are real are the ones when you can actually find stillness and hear the real thoughts. But you can
Mm.
tell the difference between chatter, worry, fear, and your authenticity.
Mm.
And the
Mm.
authenticity ones you can feel because it feels right in your heart and your gut.
Mm. Ooh, I like that. The saying, "Don't believe everything you think."
Yeah, don't believe anything you think.
No, but I love that concept. And I think, like, can you talk a little bit more about the Be Free model? Because I think that to me, that is revolutionary. The thought, like what you said, is that we all know, but it might not be in here, it might be in our bodies somewhere, is so powerful to me. So, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the coaching model, and I'm so excited to be training 8 new coaches that will graduate in June that will go out into the
Wow.
world and like
Wow.
spread the freaking Be Free love, right? So it's been so powerful to have to, really get specific about how I mean, I know how I developed the model for myself, but then also, come up with a curriculum that teaches other people how to do it. So it's a 3-month model. And the reason why it's 3 months is because you don't actually need that long to develop tools to do it on your own.
Mm.
So the premise is really 3 months in which we teach you different tools that we walk you through that you experience through your mind, body, and your soul as one in
Mm.
terms of the stuff that you're dealing with, in order to then become free. So
Mm.
becoming free at the end, you can tell when people become free at the end because now they're disagreeing with me and they're fighting with me and they're not doing everything I say, right? They're all set. They're this, and I'm like, oh, you're done. See you later. Right? It's how to really teach people how to stand in their personal power and solidify who it actually is that they are. So,
Mm.
and there's a whole stage of ways that we do that. So the first step is grounding. Each month is a theme. So it's grounding. So that has to do with like meditation, yoga, mindfulness, all the ways in which you can really authentically understand who you are.
Right.
And then, you know, and then creating some action and some personal power. So how do we solidify who you are? So, that's where strength training comes in, Zumba comes in, Pound comes in. Like you really integrate all that awesomeness into yourself. And then the last piece, so find, recover, evolve, and enjoy into the third month is really about, using all those tools, using the mindfulness. So, there's homework, there's, interaction with the coaches pretty intensely. And they'll give them homework and assignments, like go into the community and maybe you might be triggered by, say you see a, liquor store. What happens in your body, mind, and spirit, and then what do you do within the next 20 minutes?
Oh.
Right? How do you shift that? How do you shift that so fast for yourself?
Right.
Anyone dealing with anything, it doesn't have to necessarily be like recovery. It could just be even depression or anxiety. Like anxiety comes up all the time.
Yeah.
It's based in fear, and then most fear is based in past experiences. So then it's how to identify all that stuff and what's the main presenting one. And then anxiety really is just information. It's like little kid in your body being like, hey, pay attention to me. I need help. You're not validating my feelings.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So you spend some time with anxiety and you talk to your inner child, right?
Right.
So we teach people how to do that. And then using breath is like 99.9% of the program. Because people don't understand that the main piece about using your breath is that it's the one thing that communicates to your body that you're safe in the present moment. So if you're someone that's experienced trauma, really working with your breath in gentle ways and kind ways with your body really can shift the way that you look at the world.
That's powerful. It's so funny because I think of myself as somebody who's very like disassociated with my body. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
I feel like someone who's very cerebral, and I'm like, I want. But it's interesting that you're telling me and telling everybody that it really includes your body. That's a huge part of the solution. And you can't just divorce it from that,
You can't. And that's why people are in therapy for so long, because the body-mind connection is disconnected. And you can't connect it, you can't heal. Some people are in therapy and they're just re-traumatizing themselves and they don't know it. Because every time you tell a story, particularly about either sexual abuse or domestic violence, I mean, those are just really two, I know trauma is huge, but really two places in which you get lost. You get completely erased of who you are, and you lose your power altogether. Like you have no choice in those situations. And so in order to get that power back, you have to spend time in the trauma. You have to spend time with what was lost.
Yes, I like that.
And gain it back. Like, so people are so afraid to like, I don't want to dive back into all this stuff, right? Veterans who have killed many people don't, their doctors tell them all the time, Jesus, you need therapy. Of course they do. But no one wants to sit and be like, yeah, I blew this guy's head off. I mean, I'm not trivializing it at all, but it's really hard to like sit and talk about.
Ooh,
so you don't. You just do restorative yoga and you sort of let the thoughts come up. And as they come up, I walk you through how to let your body know that you're safe so that you don't fall apart when you're in the community, or you don't reach for a drink. Or you don't reach for a pill, or you don't reach for a cookie. All right, go have a cookie, but still.
I know I'm like really hungry all of a sudden.
All right, you can have some cake.
No, I love what you just said, that it's not necessarily about the event. It's about what was lost, right? Oh, that just blew my mind, because then, like you're saying, like if what you felt was a loss of strength, right? Focus on that and focus on how to. Oh, that just blew my mind.
You got it. Yes, that's the difference between B3 and every other program out there. Yes, that's why it works. That's exactly why it works.
Because if you're just constantly saying this thing happened to me and we talk about it, but you're not talking about the feeling of what was lost in that moment and how to regain it.
Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Essentially, it doesn't matter. It's the same for
everybody.
It's the same.
Right.
It's the same. But that's why when I did when I was writing the model in rehab, I would get on my yoga mat and I would write the word abandonment, right? Because I knew that was what I felt on the train every single time. And that was the thread underneath my drinking. It was because I didn't feel good enough. I felt left out in the world by my mother, who I dearly adored and loved. And so, I would put the word abandonment, put it on a card on my yoga mat, and literally do different poses that just helped me move through that one topic.
Mm-hmm.
So whether I cry, and then I would just keep doing it until I didn't feel the pain anymore. And I would throw that card out. I'm like, we're done with abandonment. What's next, Dad? All right, let's put Dad on the sticky.
Wow.
Yeah, and so all those things and I would just move through and that's the way you make the connection with your body, because I'd experienced in different places where you think sometimes, sometimes it's just stuck in my shoulders. I know that certain parts of me hold my mom now in my heart, but man, was that in my hips? Okay, there was like in my back, my lower back, like there was parts that you could really resonate where it was living.
Yes.
I could then, breathe and put my mind to those places and really soften the emotion in the body.
Right.
Then I would just furiously write it down and be like, okay, I know that when I think about my mom in this way, it lives here. Yeah.
To pinpoint where on your body you were feeling it.
Yes.
Oh, that's powerful.
And then that's all you have to worry about. So it's not like, not worry, but it's not, you don't have to be like, oh my God, you don't have to go back and do all the therapy I did. That was just my choice of doing it. I don't do that with people because it's too charged, right? But I was in a rehab clinical setting in which it was completely safe and comfortable, and the person was highly trained. What I would do with people is just go find the spot in their body, and then let's figure out how to release it. So you don't have to go all the way back. That was my personal choice, and it worked for me because I felt like I was safe enough to dig there. But you don't have to. You don't have to.
Right. You just have to identify the loss, right? And then yeah. No, I love that.
I want to take a second I'm following our who's listening. Nicole Flint just joined us. Hi, Nicole.
We love
Nicole. Danny's here. Diana checked in. Diana Kenny. Rhonda had a little comment. Some beautiful, wonderful comments. I don't see any questions per se, but thank you for tuning in. Alton, nice to see ya. And Jason Parent.
That's my Amazon link.
Oh yeah, Russ. Russ.
I don't think I've met Russ. Russ, who are you? But he comes out of the woodwork all the time and like, here's your link to your Amazon. I'm like, really?
Apparently he is your agent and you just don't know it.
Exactly.
The universe conspires, when you put that good energy out. So that's what that is.
I'm like, where is this?
Appreciate it. If anybody who is listening does have questions, we'd be happy to take any questions. And thanks for tuning in and keep interacting. We love it.
I'm just putting up that people can purchase the book on my website. That's actually better for me than Amazon.
Oh, there you go. That's apparently look at this beautiful book. I'm just gonna say something too as a commercial break. I'm somebody who sadly does not read a lot. It's a literal mind problem that I have trouble focusing on a book. I read this in 2 nights. It was a quick, easy, fun read. It captured my attention. I literally haven't read any other book in over a year. And I think I'll keep referring to it too. And one of the things, so if we can shift for just a little bit more global perspective, what I found amazing is how all of this almost comes together like the perfect storm almost with what's going on in our world currently. It kind of gave me chills. The timing is perfect. It is what it is. I mean, it's another example of the process, trusting the process, that this is coming out at the right time. Your business model is launching. It's all come together so beautifully. I just, how has that been for you? And I know you do a little bit of manifesting but some of this is even beyond, just a little bit beyond your manifestations. It's crazy.
Yo, the last weekend with the coaches is talking about universal connection and manifestation. So it's all part of the process. But with manifestation and all that stuff, and I'll get to the question. I think you're talking about like social justice stuff and how that all sort of came together. I really, again, I can't even say enough about being in rehab, but it just gave me space and time to really like trust myself, right? Because it was like, I realized early on, if I don't love myself fully, when I get out of here,
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to live. Because if I can't find a real reason to stay alive, I will certainly, my addiction will find a way to kill me. So I had to, with so much conviction, like really, really find a way to love myself.
Right.
So, but from there, you have to trust in something bigger than yourself. I don't care if it's God. I don't care if it's a potato. Some people were calling it, in rehab, it was the biggest joke. We would put a potato in the middle of the room for people that didn't believe in God. And we're like, all right, something outside yourself you believe in, right? Yes. Cake. I don't care.
I love that.
I don't, whatever.
Yep.
I definitely believe in potatoes.
I know. I believe.
I don't know.
French
Anything.
fries.
Yes, carbohydrates. Yes.
I believe in the carbohydrates.
Bread. Please. All right, sorry.
Yeah.
I diverse.
Sorry, not sorry.
So, yeah.
Social justice, manifesting,
connecting to the earth, connecting to the
potato,
universe, higher power, potato, something larger than yourself. Because there is something bigger than yourself, whether you like it or not, that helps to guide your spirit no matter what. And the only way that you know that is because when you start to love yourself, you start to see those things happening, right? So for me, it's the universe. It's my mom. She's like just chilling with the universe, like, come on, kid. If you go this way, we'll guide you. You go this way, we're going to show you that's not the right way. Happens every single time. So, yeah. Anyway, the social justice stuff. So, again, has to come back to self-love, too, of just like you have to really fight for what you believe in and ground yourself in every single thing without worrying about what the repercussions are going to be and without worrying about what other people are going to say about you. Right? So it's okay to be loudmouth and brave, and Muska's so good at doing this. And just fighting the good fight, because that's sort of what we are all put on this earth for, is really, once you find the purpose of who you are, then you really got to use it. Otherwise, what's the point, I mean,
right.
We don't have to help people, but sure as shit, you better communicate who you are out loud so that the world can just keep creating good stuff. So that was part of the whole. And the other part, I think that was so telling, was my friend Joey, who died 2 weeks after COVID, and he was in rehab with me. And so that experience really just, in some crazy way, just helped to connect the social justice and that moment when I talk about how that transcends into the healthcare system and who I had communication with and who I could really see, that's what people are always asking me, like, well, you're Black. How can you sort of align with someone who may sort of have these ideals that are so different than yours? And I'm like, because I spend so much time talking to people that truly, really loved me. Because, I mean, you're talking about really deep stuff.
Right.
We're talking about men that divulged for the first time because they took all the alcohol or drugs out of the body, that they were sexually abused as children for years, right? Lots and lots of white men, lots and lots of Black men. And it was just, people of color, that happened across the board for men. And so, but again, those white men were also super conservative and probably people that had voted for Trump because they were aligned with the military, they were aligned with police, because they had lost personal power at some point in time.
Yes.
So that became their outlet. It became their outlet. But because we were in recovery, those are the people that looked me in the face and would hold my cheeks and say, I love you. I will die on the ground for you if anything ever happened to you. And it wasn't fake.
Right.
So it gave me a way to really see people in a different way that and again, having it all come back to trauma.
Yeah, I have a question similar to what Christy just said. Is we're in this world where after George Floyd's murder, and now we're seeing stuff going on in the Asian community and whatnot. What do you think is the societal trauma that we're experiencing, and what's the loss that we need to gain as a society?
Oh my God.
That's a great question. Wow. Bam.
I gotta sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about what we're experiencing in the community and the trauma of racism, the trauma of xenophobia, and how do we recognize what is lost from that? You know, because you were saying think of the loss and how to gain that back. So I'm trying to think on a global field. What is the collective trauma that we feel in this country?
What an amazing question.
I think
this is for everyone.
No, I really touched by the question because I was like,
I know, right?
That she really brought Be Free to like, whoa.
And this is open to Christy too. You know, it's just a conversation with all of us about.
Well, what I experience, this isn't me answering the question, but what I experience also that we haven't touched on necessarily about Be Free is that it's a community. And it binds people versus the division that we see in our world so often. So I don't know if that is speaking to part of the loss. I don't think it's the whole piece, but you have to focus on, I think what Be Free does is you focus on you first so that you can put your own oxygen mask on first so that then you can show up in the world as a healed person, which is how you heal the world. That's just a thought off the top of my head. But it is I love that perspective because it's a universal healing.
It really is.
But it can start on a microcosm versus the macro.
One thing I was just thinking of is Ayanna's story about how you have to really love yourself, right? First, but then to see others as humans that are worthy of love as well. And to me, I was just thinking that a lot of these conversations about racism, that the loss, if I had to identify it, is the loss of seeing someone else as a human.
I was just going to say that. I was like, humanization.
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about, just some of the people that I admire.
Because even what you're saying about how you help, these men, these white men, and this thought of, I can understand even dehumanizing these white men, saying they don't understand, they're just a Trump supporter, XYZ, but then really seeing them as humans with trauma that you can connect to. And then suddenly you're like, this is how we heal it, is that we have to see these other people as human.
As human. As human. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that what's happened for so long, and because racism is so pervasive, I mean, for so long, I mean, and some of the stuff is still happening. I mean, obviously the stuff is still happening very, very, very loudly. Is that racism has allowed people to see other people and groups of people particularly as unhuman and worthy of harm. So that's the other piece that's where white supremacy lives. White supremacy really lives in a place where they have identified groups of people that are dehumanized enough where harming them is okay, welcomed, and justified.
Right.
So in order to heal that, but if you look at people that are able to see other humans in that way, have been harmed in some way.
Yes, exactly.
Or they've just, allowed themselves to see racism without challenging it in any form. But they've also been taught it. So there's really, really deep stuff. That's why when your question, I was like, oh, how do you answer that? Because there's so many layers to it.
Right.
That are so, especially just people who are white supremacy. I mean, imagine the body and living with that much hate and looking at other people and just seeing hate. Like what, you know how it feels when you look at somebody and you love them?
Yes.
And just the feeling and the freedom and the everything in your body, the juiciness, like the, the giggle, like all that. I know, I'm looking at the two of you.
Juicy.
But
Juicy.
imagine living your life feeling the opposite of that all the time.
Right.
And then the only way to keep moving like that is to separate the humanness from yourself.
Right.
So you got to really hate yourself in order to act that way and to continue to act that way.
Yes.
It really is. It's a double-edged thing where, I mean, really we have to come together and really, see each other as humans and connect on that level. But safely, of course. Like, don't, everyone's all these hashtags of like, I'm not gonna join with the white supremacists. You don't have to.
Right. Exactly.
No, that's not suggested.
I'm not gonna unify with. Yeah, you don't have to.
Right.
You do, but again, and also challenge other people, and it goes across races too, of just how we're seeing people, how we're loving them, how we're honoring each group, but really how we're honoring ourselves. If we haven't done the real work of digging really deep of our own, so we all have, like Ibram Kendi talks about, like we're born into this world that is racist, and like we are told racist ideas and things constantly since the day we were born, including people of color.
Right.
So people of color are taught from the day one that they're not worthy.
Right.
So then how do you unlearn that? How do you really figure out how to love yourself in a way that empowers you to be able to be okay and function in the world?
Right.
That's where all the racial trauma healing comes in.
Right.
I teach people of color all the time in coaching or groups or whatever, or yoga even, that, your depression doesn't necessarily come from anything other than you've been harmed by microaggressions your whole life. That has nothing to do with who you are as a person.
Exactly.
It has to do with the racial construct of the world.
Exactly.
I mean, my God. How hard is that?
No, that's very, very true. That's very true. Because I think that's one thing that was interesting to me is at the end of the book when you kind of start to talk about global or social trauma. To me, that was something that was so important for all of us right now because of what we're dealing with in this country at this time. So that's why I'm glad that you kind of explained how we can use the model of self-love for ourselves to then think about global trauma and how to heal that.
Yes, and anything is possible.
Yes, absolutely. And I actually wanted to say a little something. So Christy was saying how great this book was. I want to talk about the reading experience I had. So I'm a big time reader, right? I read all the time. I majored in English and creative writing in college, so writing and reading is a big part of my life. But I'm a very slow reader usually. But this is a book that I read in one night.
And you beat me. One night. I was 2 nights.
But I think it's because it was that gripping,
Yeah.
And it's funny too because when people know that I was a writer and that like I have, I almost went to law instead of going to law school, I almost went to get my MFA in creative writing. So people throughout my life, friends and whatnot, have shared their writing with me, and it has ended friendships because I'm a little too real. Where I will say, like, I don't know about this, or I'm a very, very harsh critic, and I actually loved this, right? And that was something that even my family, they're like, "Did you really like it?" Or and I was like, "No, I really liked it," right? So that's the thing I wanted to tell you is normally I'm such a harsh critic. And this really blew my mind. So this really was something that I'm going to remember, certain scenes probably forever. And I just wanted to thank you from the perspective of a reader that you were able to do that because it's extremely, extremely hard, to not only just, because I think you have this amazing perspective, but also just as a craft, you're just a really good writer as well and really good storyteller. And I think that that's something that like I wanted to just say to you is like, I hope you keep writing because I feel like I will probably rush to read anything you write. Have you ever thought? Have you ever thought of writing more? Like,
I already started book 2. I wasn't kidding.
Oh my god! That's the other thing. So in my world, because I grew up with lots of writers, I don't think I know a single person who's like, oh, I'm going to write a book, and then actually does write a book.
I know.
Like, people talk about writing books.
So true, yeah.
But then I was like, oh my god, you finished it. So now you're on to book 2.
Mm-hmm.
And is it kind of a continuation of this one, or is it a completely different topic? Is it nonfiction, fiction?
So it's gonna. I want to tell you the title because it's so good, but I gotta wait.
Okay, we'll hold off.
But I will tell you, like, it's basically the steps of how to become free. So now that I set the stage for like the background and the context, it's like how do you live in that realm? How do you maintain joy? Like, how do you maintain these things? How do you when something horrific happens and you feel like you're a piece of shit? How do you get back to self-love? So, and this will eventually be the book that I won't have to write a manual for the coaches anymore. It'll just be dissecting the book.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it'll weave in stories of like my favorite stories. So that's where Christy will come in of like, there'll be a section on like becoming brave and using your voice. Right. So I'll talk about the podcast and body positive and experiencing joy and all that stuff. So that will be a chapter.
Yeah.
So it'll sort of break down more like current examples or some past examples, but how I got to the place of, how can you maintain and really live in a place of freedom?
Oh, I'm excited. So do you feel, just from your experience, is writing this one easier because it's not as embroiled in like discussing your past traumas? Is it easier in that?
This one is so much easier.
You're right.
I had to take breaks. The other one honestly wouldn't have taken me that long, except for like my editor was writing it along with me, and it was so powerful. But because I was telling my story, and we had to be really careful not to re-traumatize me.
Yes.
So that I would share a story, and then she would write it, and I would reread it, but then we'd put it away because like she was really worried too of like I don't want you to go back to a place where you're like unraveled by this process.
Sure.
It's supposed to be empowering. It's supposed to share your story with other people. The last thing we want is for you to like end up back in the hospital because something is too much. So we really took time and space with that, which was like, thank God for her, because she was almost like my therapist the whole time. Because she was, because I was telling her these stories. We were crying because it's hard to talk about some of that stuff.
Right.
And she's listening and writing and recording and crying.
Right. Give her a shout out. What's her name?
She's Kat.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, because
she's now on my board, which is so cool. With you,
right?
And you're on my board.
I know. I met her, and I was like, I did the thing no book editor wants, and I was like, oh, I have an idea for a story. She probably hears that all the time.
I know.
And she's probably like, yeah, whatever. Everybody has a book story. But that's so exciting! I can't wait for your second one, and
which means a second movie. It means a trilogy, or at least Oh my gosh! I just had a thought. You can copyright this if you want, but you could do 4 movies at least. Yes. Find, recover, evolve, and enjoy to follow it all like synchronized.
Oh my god! And I'm gonna be in each movie.
Yes.
As Jason.
Jason, you're unemployed. You can't play yourself, Jason, because we've already got someone.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep.
So that's funny.
Amazing.
Hey, I just want to shout out to other people. I want to see if there's any questions, but Cheryl is watching. Mimi and Lydia joined us. Lydia LeClaire, Eric Fallon, Gianna Cassell. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We so appreciate it. A lot of people are reading the book, haven't necessarily read the book, but that's cool, because if this doesn't hype you up to read the book, like
I don't know what will. Exactly.
Yeah. So, anything else we want to cover? We know we're almost through to our hour, huh?
Well,
to our hour, yeah.
So why don't we end it with, since I have been showing his picture, let's talk about love. Let's talk about Jason and Blessing and how the love of family has helped you. I've got the honor of knowing both Jason and Blessing, and so I'd love for you to end it off with talking a little bit about them.
Sure. So, I mean, I talk in the book sort of about Jason and my relationship and sort of the difficulties of loving somebody with an addiction. It's really hard. And, you know, that moment of being in rehab. And, you know, I think love my husband, but he, you know, has a wall, and lots of men do, and lots of women do, because it's hard to be vulnerable. And he and I talk all the time about what vulnerability means and how can he sort of soften in ways that let me see him be vulnerable, and just so that I feel like I'm not alone, and that I'm not, you know, sharing all these things and living this life that, you know, is so authentic. I want him to live that way with me, and that's where intimacy really lives. So I think that moment in rehab where we had that sort of breakdown really was the moment where I was like, aha, there he is. Like,
yes,
okay, he's here. He's with me on this journey. He can't do it all the time. He doesn't have to, but at least I can witness that he's there and he's with me and he wants to. And I think that's why you guys see him. He's such the cheerleader that he is, because he really does believe in everything that I do, and that's sort of because he knows he can't always be so vulnerable. He just has to show that he's really on board with everything.
Yes,
so I really appreciate that with him, and you know, and every time I'm like, I need some space, I got to go away, even if it's for like a weekend by myself. He's like, we got it. Like, that's what you need to be who you are, and sober, that's okay. We love that. We love you. Like, and so I think that's really, really important. And, you know, being a parent, I will say, is so hard, you guys. Jesus Lord, especially to my kid. She is amazing, right? But to keep up with her ability to be who she is, as a parent, is a job in and of itself. So, and you know, a lot of people don't realize that trauma really gets kicked up as a parent, because it magnifies everything you didn't get. So imagine I have to catch myself every time I'm reacting. She's not my mom. She's not my dad. She's not when Maggie didn't show up to my graduation in yoga, right? You know, like, whoa, I have to really separate that, because that anger comes out. We're like, oh, why can't you just?
yes.
I have to pause and like, whoa, that's my own stuff.
Right.
That has nothing to do with her beautiful energy and her being and her hyperactivity. She just loves the world. That's the worst thing about her. She's so energetic. How lucky of a mom am I, right? But it's for my own personal self. It's I struggle with that, but it's a beautiful journey. I wouldn't have it any other way. And so I feel really, really, really blessed to be able to. And the last thing I would say too is just, you know, reaching out to people when you need it along the way, no matter what, whether it's your husband, Christy, I must call her all the time. But she helps me in the moment, right?
Same. Yeah, same.
And my friend Damon, when there was, you know, fallout with my dad and the book stuff, and I caught myself in a cycle that I was not feeling good about with him, and just getting caught in old patterns. I was like, wait, how did I get here? You know, I called him right away. He sat down with me. We tapped it out. You know, the tapping, the EFT tapping. And,
yes.
And he's an incredible hip hop dancer. And we danced. We tapped and danced. I mean, it was like, but like you need to choose those moments of your like, I'm choosing me. I'm not going to live like this. Whoa, I got caught in some stuff. I'm not going to do that. And who can help me get out of it? Like, none of this really has to do with being in connection with each other too.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, which is, I think, just to connect to the book, it's pretty brave of you to still, you must have worked on your abandonment, because these are people who, you have found people who will show up at your train station, basically, after maybe not trusting people to do that for a long time. I think we all can relate to that. Like, you learn things as a child that you're not even aware that you're learning. So, something as that seems, maybe insignificant to you, maybe really impacting you and maybe holding you back from actually experiencing love and joy and all of that. So
I remember I was crying my eyes out when Christy called me and she said, sorry, now I'm going to cry. She's like, I will always show up at your train station. I will.
Right. That's just so beautiful. That really is.
That was the first thing out of her mouth. I was like, oh my God.
I'll probably be about 10 minutes late, but I will be there.
That is so great. That's so great.
It was such a great metaphor. As I was reading, I was like, oh my God. I mean, your mom was like setting you up for this beautiful book by
seriously. That metaphor is beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a great way to end by saying, you have a community here of people who will meet you at the train station with carbohydrates, with potatoes. I just want to show it again. Look at
this sexy book.
Right?
You guys, when
how
she
hot
took
she
that
looks.
picture,
Yeah.
it was like last June, and it was the first hot day, and I had to drive to Hingham, and this beautiful, but the photographer was so great. But I had forgotten that I had taken the tie down because I was driving and I was so hot.
Yeah,
and I forgot to tie it back up. So in every picture, there's all these places in there. I'm like,
yeah, I don't believe that.
Show my boobs like that.
No,
but it turned out great.
I know you look so hot in this, and the biceps.
Even the rack was becoming free.
Exactly.
You embodied becoming free.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh my
funny.
God. You should say that. You should say that in interviews where the person hasn't actually read the book. Be like, "Oh, this was actually all about my boobs." So I don't know what you're talking about, and just see how the whole interview goes with these people.
The male audience will be like, "Woo, we're here, showing up."
Exactly.
Oh, don't forget about gay people, trans, all that. They be looking at my boobs too.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Exactly. That's so heterocentric of me.
Don't get caught in your heterosexism, girl.
Exactly. I think everyone is admiring.
Yes, true that.
So I got my book from Live Love Local as well. So that's where I got my book from. And then you said your website as well is another great place.
Yes, but also Tipton's Bookshop and Sandwich has it. Falmouth 8 Cousins has it. What is that store in Chatham? The umbrella. Well, where the sidewalk ends.
Yes,
not the yellow umbrella. Where the sidewalk ends. Where else is it, you guys?
Power Yoga.
Power Yoga. Thank you.
Yep.
And Evoke Yoga has it too.
Oh,
and
that's
Evoke.
wonderful.
That's right.
That's
Evoke
great.
Yoga.
Yes.
And you're doing some book signings all the time, so somebody can definitely actually get it. And even if you buy it, you can bring it and get it signed. So however you want to obtain it, get it. But how nice to have actually, you haven't signed mine yet, girl.
You signed mine
no,
as well.
because I got mine from Amazon. So, but yeah.
We will definitely have you sign it. So I was wondering, Ayanna, because I'm obsessed with whenever you do meditation and breathing, do you want to end this with a short meditation?
Ooh. Yeah, I do.
Yes, I love it. She has such a soothing voice that I'm just like, all right, let's do this.
All right, let's do this. Let's go out with a bang here. So everyone joining us in community and together. Let's just take a moment to be still, relax the shoulders. Allow the body and the breath to connect. Gently take some deep inhales and exhales in through the nose, out through the mouth. Releasing the jaw, taking the tongue off the roof of your mouth. And allowing all the words and the questions and the thoughts to resonate in your body that we talked about today. Allowing it to resonate with your truth and to shift maybe one thing before we leave this conversation that can change your direction for the better, and know that you are worth it, that you have everything you need to be a beautiful inspiration in the world, that I am just the guide that can get you there. And then, since we talked about social justice, I would love to just take a moment and just connect with the possibility that we can really be human and see people as human and honor the world as it is, but also honor the amazing, courageous moments that are yet to come. Take a few final deep inhales and exhales. And you can slowly open your eyes, roll your head around, shimmy your shoulders, shake your boobies. I don't care.
You know I'm good for that. Yeah.
I feel good after meditation, even if it's like
Right?
2 seconds.
I know, right?
Now we gotta dance. Yeah.
No, like, where's the dance party?
Cue the DJ.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you to both of you. This was such a great conversation.
This is so great. Thank you guys.
You too. I love you both. Such an honor to hang out. I love it. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. All right, guys, don't leave so we can just wrap up.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, bye, everybody in the world. Thank you for listening to my story. I love you. Peace out.
Hearts and potatoes.
Potatoes.